Hey y'all, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome back to another episode of Kicks4Kingdom. I am joined today by some of the greatest humans that I know. I've got a great co-host, another Elizabeth. You want to introduce yourself and say what's up?
Yes, I'm Elizabeth. What's up?
Who are y'all? Who are you? Who are these two great guys?
I'm Trey Nine, and I am a longtime Christian hip hop artist, but now the founder of Eyes on Me Inc., nonprofit organization here in the city of Houston, joined by our executive director named
Dennis Turnipseed.
Also known as
D Money.
D Money. Can we let's lead with that? How did that come to be? The D Money moniker.
I'm pretty sure it resulted from one of the men that came up through our ministry.
Oh, okay.
And he and I were having a discussion one day because he didn't understand how to manage his finances. And I was giving him a lot of pointers on how to manage his finances so he wouldn't always be out of money and having to come and ask Eyes on Me to support him. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and said, "You're D Money." And it stuck.
And everybody needs a street name.
Everyone needs a street name.
Especially if you're going to be on the streets of Bissonnette and Foreign Park Drive, you need a street name.
Do you have a street name, Elizabeth?
They call him D Money in Foreign Park, the SWAT.
Do they really?
D Money, yeah.
What's a SWAT?
Southwest A-Leaf, Texas.
That's right. Okay, yeah. I was going to say, wait a minute. I think I've seen that somewhere. And then I just learned, I think it was from your interview with Juan about where Trey 9 came from.
Yeah.
For people that didn't see that.
Trey meaning 3 is in the Trinity, 9 is in the 9mm hand Glock. I'm shooting the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit at you instead of death.
Right?
Interesting.
The 90s, everybody was rapping about their 9mm. So, you know, it was everybody had a song about their 9 and everybody's shooting their 9. And so, yeah.
Have you always done Christian rap or was it ever secular?
No, I was secular before I got saved.
Okay.
Yep. I almost dropped a 4-song EP. And
like with a label?
Yep. No, with my own independent label. Yeah, I almost dropped it, but then I got saved in Greenspoint.
So is that being here? Because we record this podcast in Greenspoint. Is it a little more nostalgic for you to be back here, being like, okay, this is where I came from?
It feels like home. Because I spent all my time recording in Greenspoint at an apartment on North Boreal Drive, which is where our ministry started here as well. So I used to record here at an apartment in a friend's house on North Boreal Drive. And then when the ministry came here, it was like, I've already been here, already know this neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's like being back home.
Eyes on Me. So those of you that don't know, Eyes on Me is the parent organization over Kicks4Kingdom, and they exist to mentor, disciple, and serve at-risk youth and their kids, and their families. And so Dennis is the executive director. Like, you really help steer the ship. How did you're 6 years in?
Yes, ma'am.
To Eyes on Me. How did that come to be? Have you always been like in the nonprofit world, like personally, even though like not professionally, it was where you drew a paycheck? Like what is your nonprofit kind of pulling?
Right. So prior to 6 years, really wasn't a nonprofit pulling. Prior to 6 years, I was a pretty selfish and greedy guy whose goal in life was to move from the bottom of the company that he started with up to being the CEO of companies. Mm-hmm. And so over time, working very hard, I made it to the top, to where I was a CFO, chief financial officer of several companies, and then eventually became the CEO of an oilfield service company. Mm-hmm. And so God granted me my wish to work hard and make it to the top. Right. But then after he granted my wish, he also said, you know what? I'm going to make this unfulfilling to you. Mm-hmm. At the same time, I was volunteering at our church. I would give the church my time on Sunday before I went back to work. And I was teaching Sunday school, and I noticed that a lot of kids at the high schools that I was teaching did not know much about Jesus. And so God just started putting on my heart that if I didn't help teach the next generation about Jesus, we would really be one generation away from Christianity being extinct. Mm-hmm. And so when one interesting night in 2015, after I had retired from the corporate world because God called me into ministry, I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
But a friend said to come to the 5th Ward and see what Eyes on Me was doing. When I got to the 5th Ward, the short story is I saw a Christian rap artist teaching the next generation about Jesus. And when I saw that, it occurred to me that that was the fulfillment that God was putting in my heart that I needed to give me purpose in life.
That's outstanding. Was that you? Were you the Christian hip hop artist?
He was there that night.
Okay.
But there was another Christian rap artist. I'm not even sure who it was. And, really didn't matter so much as there was a rap artist taking his time on the streets of Fifth Ward to teach about 15 kids about Jesus, and he was using Christian rap to do so.
Interesting. Is that hip hop? That wasn't hip hop. Is that hip hop hope?
That was
It
Hip Hop
was
Hope.
likely Driven or Pyrex around that time. I think it was
Possible.
Driven. Yeah.
And so you guys then connected because there was a need within the organization for there to be more. Because were you kind of stepping back, trying to do more like the vision and
Yeah.
the whatever? And
Yeah, I think I might have been still hosting. Well, maybe not. I'm sure it was Driven or something, but I was just taking a step back, overseeing everything. And so you had Driven talking to kids, and then you had me. I would always look for people, that Doug would send here to Fifth Ward, because I knew they would be uncomfortable. They wouldn't know what do I do when I get here.
Sure.
So I went and greeted him, and then he had these other guys that were, tatted up and stuff come up to him, and so he was kind of,
Swarmed.
surrounded. Yeah.
I was out of my element at the time.
not anymore though. Not with those
Not
shoes.
anymore.
Yeah, and so it was a beautiful thing, because the next day we sat down and had a meeting, because at that point I was beginning to feel the pressure of running a nonprofit when all I wanted to do was street ministry.
Right.
And here I go, back into business, because I had a business before I launched as a missionary, and I didn't want to do business. I wanted to, be amongst people doing ministry face to face. And so my problem was, we had got a grant, and I was about to hire part-time people. And I remember telling the people, I'm going to have to pull back from the street level, and y'all are going to have to step up, because I got to do the nonprofit and fundraise in order to match this grant. And I was like, this is good, but this sucks.
Sure. Yeah.
Good because we can now not rely on just a volunteer to do it. We can actually pay people to do it. But bad because now I got to get bogged down in admin and executive paperwork, stuff like that. So when we sat down, he can tell you the rest.
I said, I've been called into ministry, but I don't really know what I'm supposed to do. Mm-hmm. But I do know how to handle developing an organization.
Right.
So we had an agreement that I would come on board, and I would spend 80% of my time on corporate stuff, but 20% on ministry, because that's what I was called to. That's where I'm learning my purpose. And Trey said, okay, then I'll do 80% street ministry, and I'll give you 20% of my time for corporate. Well, it quickly turned into 0% corporate with Trey and 100%
He lied. He's
street
lied.
ministry.
He lied.
And I can't blame him, because the ministry side of it's a lot more exciting than the other piece of it. Trey gives a little bit of time for corporate stuff, but
I do.
I find myself trying to spend as much time in ministry as I can.
Yeah.
Because it's not always easy ministering to others, but it's where you really find the joy in your heart. But I also realize I've got to take care of things at an organizational level so they'll get done.
Yeah.
So God was really putting us together, matching our strengths up against each other, because we're pretty two diverse people,
Yeah, different backgrounds.
different skill sets, but we've come together, and we know that it's not about either one of us. It's about God and glorifying Him through what we're doing.
100%. Where do you fall in that? Like, if you were like, what would you be more the Trey or more the Dennis?
I would say more of the Dennis.
Would you rather, is it just because you'd rather be more behind the scenes, or because like your skill set is more like administrative, like corporate type of?
Yeah, I would say that. I'm not the most extroverted person, so I guess I'm more of the corporate side. I like bookkeeping and that kind of stuff, and like managing things. So, yeah.
That's not where I shine at all. One of the things that you said that really kind of resonated with me is like, who is pouring into the next generation? So if we've got youth, we've got teenagers, young adults that are going to catch this a month from now, 3 months from now, a year from now, like whatever they're walking through, like how did they, nobody knows how they stumbled across this YouTube page that they did. What would you say to them if they're in this season of brokenness of, maybe I've been in college and like I'm still sleeping around, but I don't want to. Maybe I'm hitting the bottle, but I'm calling it just social drinking. How do you reach kind of the hearts of those that are watching that feel like I'm not cleaned up yet. So like, why would I turn to Christ? Because I don't look like these people do. I look like this.
You tell them the consequences, you're going to hell.
Okay. So we're just going to leave with that. Okay.
No, I'm just playing. I had to do it. No, go ahead and do it. Tell them, what would you say to them?
What do we say? Help.
No, we don't do that. That's not the way to handle it.
Are you Westboro Baptist? Like,
I think you just plug into a community. I plug into a community that understands the struggle and will help you through the struggle. I mean, I could say, well, pray. All right, you should know. Pray, ask God to help you through the temptation. But ultimately, being in a community that'll keep you accountable, that'll encourage you, that'll motivate you, that won't condemn you, but will uplift you at the same time, challenge you to come on, pull up out of there. You can do this. You can overcome it. I think that's the key. Just stay in community with believers. I think some things you might battle with all your life. I mean,
sure.
You're going to battle lust. You're going to battle pride. That's a lifetime thing. And some people think, well, if I'm battling and struggling with these sins, I can't be a Christian.
Sure.
No, that's not. You're asking the Lord, to lead us not into temptation. There's going to be temptation all your life. Otherwise, we'd be in a perfect body and everything would be fine. We wouldn't even need a Savior.
Sure.
We wouldn't need Jesus. And so if you're in a community, then you can overcome those things that are sinful. And we know sin leads to death in various aspects of life. So the reason you're trying to overcome sin here is so that it doesn't cause death in your life, Mm-hmm. If you fornicate, there's a lot of negative consequences that come with that, emotionally, physically. There's all kind of consequences of fornication. It's not just so you can say I'm abstinent, I'm
right.
celibate. Look at me, let me wave my banner, how good I am.
Mm-hmm.
It's for your own good,
right?
And for the good of the people that you could be raising up children that don't have mom and dad married, a nuclear family.
Yeah.
You could catch a disease. You could emotionally tie someone to you who is crazy and out of their mind, and now they're tied with you for life. Like, there's so many negative things that come from committing sin that when you're in a community that can keep you accountable, they're helping you to overcome the temptation. And that's what I would say is get in a community that's for real about this thing, that's walking it out, living it out, that you can enjoy life with, and not just the don'ts,
right.
but all the do's.
Right.
That's Kicks4Kingdom is, sneakers and shoes. Like, why
sure.
not? Why not? Why not? Because it doesn't look like typical traditional church? No, because there's people that like sneakers and it's fun and it's engaging. And so get in a community that has something going on that you are engaged and challenged by, and don't let sin beat you down all the time, because that's covered and paid for when you come to Jesus. He's already covered your sin. It's just a matter of you overcoming it and not falling and facing the consequences for it.
I guess that concludes our show. Totally kidding.
Simple enough. No.
Either of you want to chime in to that so we don't go to hell?
Well, and in my time in the streets, I do talk to a lot of people about where they are in life, and
Yeah.
and they're doing the things that you mentioned because they're suffering from something.
Yeah.
And obviously you have to be very careful not imposing your beliefs too hard on somebody until they get to know you.
Yeah.
But they also need to know that you stand for something, and there's a reason that you're out there and you have joy in your heart. So I like to let people understand what I believe, and then help them think about where they are in their life. And if they're suffering from something, what I believe is there's a book called the Bible that gives you a roadmap for how you should live your life. And if you're suffering, the purpose of getting into a community or being a part of a church is because the Son of God said that churches are really meant to be hospitals,
Right.
to help people get closer to God, not keep people away from God.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to come be a part of the hospital, then you're going to be welcomed, and we're going to walk through the path that you're on with you and help you overcome those things that are bringing you down. Mm-hmm. Because right now, if somebody's suffering significantly, they're most likely going to say that they're far from God. And what we need to let people know is God created you for a purpose. God created you to live an abundant life.
Right.
You just have to make maybe a few different choices, and we can help you do that.
Yeah.
And then, what Trey said as well.
That aspect of community is like, what is community like in your life? What does community look like?
For me, community is like people that are like there for me and like supporting me. I've learned a lot about community with Eyes on Me. Like before I was to myself and I was trying to find like a church group, like specifically a church group. But with like my husband starting to work with Eyes on Me and me tagging along with him to different events and stuff like that, it's allowed for me to like make new friends and stuff like that. So that's really grew in my community.
Good.
And I think challenging. Oh, go ahead.
So what I was going to add to that is, when I think of community, one of the things that we were told by Jesus is to go into, our Jerusalem, our Judea, our Samaria, and to the ends of the earth to share the gospel, right? So when I think about community, I have to think about those different levels that Jesus expressed, right? So for me, my Jerusalem is my family.
Okay.
And if my family is falling apart and we can't get along and we're arguing and fighting all the time, then I'm no good to anybody else out there.
Sure.
Because my house isn't in order. So I have to focus first on making sure my house is in order. And I'm very pleased to announce that I've got a great marriage and I've got 3 kids that we're all in love with each other.
Yeah.
So that's my Jerusalem. And when I think of Judea, I think of those friends now that are in a broader circle, that we're all believers, we're all in community, there to encourage and support each other. And then from that, I think about, my Samaria being communities around Houston or neighborhoods around Houston that I enjoy getting plugged into to get to know the local people in those communities, to help them think about being in community amongst each other. And so for me, community means thinking about just the different areas of your life and making sure that you're kind of taking care of your business and being responsible and accountable for the groups or the families that you're a part of.
Yeah. I think all of you said like in a real similar way. And before we started recording, we were talking about Francis Chan's book, Letter to the Church. And it's like what this idea of, especially like American culture of church versus what does the Bible say church is. And, you guys, we first connected at Refresh, which then has now launched off into its own thing. And you with, okay, yes, I have my family and then I have everybody else. Like, it's not necessarily a building. Like, it's not. It's a group of like Christ followers, and each of you in your own way are living that out in really admirable ways because the thing went off. Because it's not easy to live authentically, especially with like the heavy stuff. We don't want to admit to people that, oh, I'm sinning. Oh, I'm lusting after this guy. How do you go to my spouse with that? I think you cultivate that relationship of nothing's off the table, where I can say to you, I just need you to know this is where my heart is. And the fact that, I get to sit around the table with you guys is pretty great. All right. Community. And we're a community of sneakerheads. Some of us more than others. Show me what you guys have on your feet, except don't show me your actual feet. It's so weird. I have to know everything about who made D-Money's shoes. Please. Dennis Turnipseed.
That's Trey. Trey gets credit.
Oh, weren't these a gift? Didn't you have
Trey
these
gifted
made
those
for
to
him?
me.
Yeah, it's his
6 years of ministry.
his 6-year anniversary with Eyes on Me. We had some white Air Force Ones customized. They got the D and they got the money sign on them, and so that's his first pair of Air Force Ones.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's his first pair of custom shoes as well. These are Jordan 1 Mid Hyper Royales. And so, yeah, man, he looks fresh in them. And his attitude is different when he walks around in them, too.
He walked in, I go.
Yeah, he's less business. He's a lot more loose. And I'm like, your shoes will do that for you.
Well, it's like, are you swaggy? And Rolanda goes, please don't say swaggy. I was like, oh. What am I supposed to say? What are the cool? What do you say when you're like up in your shoes that you're proud of?
I guess fly. They look fly. Yeah. I don't know.
Drip.
What do you say, Dennis?
It changes my vibe.
Yeah.
I got a new vibe.
That's hilarious. What did you wear today? Your white Converse?
Yeah.
But you're lifting afterwards.
Basic Converse. Yeah, I work out. Those are the only kind of shoes I wear. Things I can work out in.
Mine are
like
the purple. These are Air Max. They're the purple cheetah. I like them because they're like, I don't know, they're like the purple cheetah hair. They were part of like a zoo, like an animal kind of like Thank
Very
you.
nice.
I do. I always like to do a bold.
Those got to be pretty expensive.
I got them I didn't get them
got
from
'em?
Sneakers. Yeah, I got them for retail.
That's nice.
Thank you.
Real nice.
I think so too. How do you guys? No. Do that to Dennis's shoes. Dennis, as you think about like sneakers and ministry, how do you tie those together? Like for you?
Yeah.
in
What
your
did you
life?
think when I came to you and said we were going to do sneaker ministry, Kicks4Kingdom?
Yeah, I said, you know what? If it'll reach the next generation and give you the opportunity to share the gospel of Jesus with them, then I'm all for it.
Have we succeeded?
I think we have.
Okay. Did it turn out different than you thought?
No, not really.
Okay.
See, we didn't tap into the budget yet. See, we haven't asked for no money yet. That's when it gets real.
Is this
That's
a
right.
good time
We need
to do
a-
that?
we-
If you do a program for free and share the gospel, then I'm all for
roll
it.
the dice.
So I'm all for it.
Dennis, we need 100,000 for
It's a little
Kicks4Kingdom.
different story now.
You don't understand. If we don't have the newest release, then we're not relevant,
Right.
and nobody's. So it's like it's a budget. I would never spend donor dollars. So let's just be very clear for all of the donations
On
that
your
come to Eyes
personal
on Me.
shoes,
It's
yeah.
never 100% never. But the fact that you're willing to take it to chance, I think it shows great leadership that you guys have. That is
Well, here's the thing. Do I worry about wearing fancy shoes? Not really. Do I have a great interest in rap and hip hop music? Me personally, no. But if you're a mature Christian, you'll realize that it's not about you. Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't matter what I think. It's what do the people that we're trying to reach, how can we best reach them? Mm-hmm. Right? So I'm not going to quote the exact scripture that the Apostle Paul talks about, but he says that he's becoming all things to all people to save a few. So if I get to have a conversation with a kid who loves shoes, well, then I'll wear a shoe to have that conversation.
That's right.
If I can do bust a move or something in the rap world that makes a kid laugh, and I get to talk to him about Jesus, then I'll listen to Christian rap all day long.
That's good.
So, it's not about what is Dennis like. It's what are the methods that we can use that'll connect us to people to where we can share the gospel.
right.
Right?
That's why I love him.
This podcast studio, is this something I would do on my own? No. But this podcast is allowing students to come in that normally don't have a voice in their community to be heard, and they learn something from this that they'll take into they'll carry forward in the rest of their life. Who knows, may even make an income someday so they can be an independent adult.
Sure.
So if this gives them an opportunity to do something productive in their life, and we as a ministry have the opportunity to use this podcast studio to share the gospel, of course I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You have anything you want to echo on that
Well,
before we wrap it up?
Just that's hard to find within the church, clergy, because usually it's whatever the pastor says goes. And so that's why a guy like me who has a high respect for the assembling of the church on Sunday, we won't even worry about it. Just power it off. That's why, when I think of the church as a whole, when the baby boomers were, raising me, so to speak, and I came with hip hop, church clergy, the majority of them rejected it. So a whole generation got skipped of their culture being brought into Christianity, and not a negative aspect of the culture, the good side of the culture. We weren't rapping about cars, clothes, and hoes. We were rapping about Jesus, but they still were pushing back on it, right? The majority. Okay. So we could have started a hip hop ministry back in the 90s to where, and instead of being pushed back and having to struggle, a guy like Dennis, who is part of that boomer generation that had the resources, could say, hey, man, I see what y'all are doing and it's reaching people. Let me put some money into that.
Yeah.
Let me put some time and resources into that. Let me help you organize that and allow it to, take off and reach thousands of people like it has. But instead, early on, we had to just fight for everything. Can we please rap in your youth group? Can we just, it was just a struggle, everything. And that was because older generations tend to get stuck in their ways and not embrace the newer generation's stuff.
Right.
I mean, how many times have you heard, older people go, oh, that you and that social media, you need to get off that phone. And it's like, no, they're on the phones. And that's the way it is for life. They're going to be on phones. So you might as well infiltrate phones with the gospel. And you might as well come up with your own app that they'll want to be on.
Right.
Instead of thinking, how can I tell them how bad they are or stop it? You should empower that, and you should release that, and you should launch them. And so Dennis isn't the typical guy you'd look at and think would embrace hip hop culture in the streets, tattoos, gang members,
Sure.
sneakers, and all that. But because of what he just said, it's bigger than that. It's
Right.
about reaching the next generation, because he's going to die. I'm going to die. Our younger kids are going to be left here.
Sure.
With what? With our dying churches.
Yeah.
You go to Fifth Ward and look at the churches that were there 20 years ago. Most of the buildings are rotted out and empty. And it's like somebody died with that. They could have passed it on and empowered the next generation, maybe got rid of the orange pews and the orange rug and the shack. They could have just, what do you want to do? You want to turn it into a breakdance center for B-boys to come and breakdance? All right, let's put some wood floors in for y'all. But they just don't think that way. I don't know why. The clergy, the older generations, they don't think that way. They think, well, we like it this way. And think about worship music. Lord, I hate saying that. Praise music, right? Think about that. When you go to a church, what are you going to hear? If it's black, it's gospel. If it's white, it's going to be contemporary.
It's Hillsong.
And it's going to be some tradition. How come there's no hip hop in there? In a worship service? Why? Oh, it don't fit. We can make it fit. We can have singing on the chorus. We can have poetry, spoken word. How come we're doing the same old thing over and over and thinking we're going to reach the next generation and make them conform to these songs that are just soft and melodic and eventually some people do conform. I don't. I would prefer to invent, create, pave a lane. So you need elders. We don't reject the elders. We embrace them, but they also have to meet us where we are. So that's what you see a lot of millennials with me, because I'm meeting them where they are. And whatever they come with, I'm like, oh, y'all big into shoes? Okay, we could do that too.
Yeah.
Hey, Dennis, what do you think about this? If it reaches people,
Yeah.
and here we are,
I can. Oh, go ahead.
The anecdotal evidence on the streets in the communities that we serve are that a lot of teenagers went to church when they were young because their grannies drug them. And those grannies have died off, and the next generation that we're seeing today of families is so dysfunctional that a lot of parents aren't dragging their kids to church.
That's right.
And so those kids don't know what it means to go to church. And so the programs like the Kicks4Kingdom,
Hip Hop Hope.
podcast studio, music studio, Hip Hop Hope, our Out the Box Church,
Right.
Dance, all that, yeah.
Star players.
those really are programs to help keep kids plugged into the biblical definition of church.
And young adults, millennials.
And young adults
yeah.
too. And young adults, absolutely.
Yeah.
But what we have seen in the last really 2 generations in this country is a rapid deterioration of the family unit and a rapid deterioration of the traditional Western church as we've seen it.
Right.
And so if we don't put things in place to reverse that trend, then the one generation away from Christianity becoming extinct is going to be here sooner than we believe.
Yeah.
And I don't want that on my watch.
Sure.
And obviously God does not want that for his kingdom. And so we've proven that the old model is not relating to its most 2 recent generations. So we have to change. Or Christianity is not going to be around. So either we embrace change or we're dinosaurs. And so to me, if a kid can paint a shoe and hear about Jesus and be saved, why would I not do that?
Sure.
Why would I hold something back that I know to be the salvation for a person's soul and not release that to them?
Exactly.
And they will not get that salvation, the opportunity to profess their faith, unless they're around a community that will share that with them. And how they get that community is by plugging into a program.
That they like, yeah. that draws them.
Yeah, and people come up to you and be like, oh, you can say, hey, I'm in these Converse and I'm going to go lift. Do you want to come lift with me? And you can use fitness and you can use that as a means. And like, I have never seen, to tie a bone on this and wrap it up, I have never seen church look like you guys have modeled it in my entire life. Like, it has challenged me fundamentally to my core of, but wait a minute, like I have to do such a deep dive and like reformat my faith to be like, but these people, like, legit, I've never seen disciple making done like Eyes on Me, period. And I've been in the church my entire life. I drank in college, but that's, whatever. And even a little bit a couple of years ago. But you know what I mean? Like, there's
That's
just
the next episode.
Yeah. On the drinking with Elizabeth. Except not. Here's a mocktail. I don't know. It is an encouragement to me to walk alongside people who are just so open-handed with it. This is not about me. It has nothing to do with either of you. Like, thankful for you, but like, it doesn't, and that's abundantly clear. And so when I think about where do donor dollars go, where do I want to volunteer, where do I want to plug in? Like, those of you that watch, like, we are ample with opportunities for people to come in and like equip and mentor these kids, 100%. And then maybe you get plugged in with sneakers. Maybe you want to, like, we had somebody reach out on Instagram that's like, hey, I see what you guys are doing. Tell me what it's about. I pop on a Zoom for 30 minutes and I think they're plugged in here now helping with sneaker restoration.
That's
like,
right.
What in the world?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, our sneaker customizer, the guy that does this, Cam, this was done by Javi, but a guy named Cam who's teaching the kids now, Christian, been in church for a long time, had this talent, but no one ever used it in his church. They never even asked him about it. The moment I found him on Instagram, like, bro, you Christian too? What? Get over here.
Right.
Came over here. Now he's working for us and he's paid,
Yeah.
to do it. And so, but he started out volunteering, giving back to the kids, loved it, found community. Now he's going to get trained in how to be a disciple and how to share his faith, plug in. And it's like, and his church kind of, they just watch it happen. And I'm like, no, y'all should open a whole sneaker department in your church. Why not? Well, I don't really work within the budget of what we do. Well, you got kids down the street that he could draw in, and then maybe their parents will start coming to your church if it's about getting people in your church. But it's just so simple to me. It's just it just makes so much common sense. But you gotta have those who hold the power or hold the purse or those who hold the resources open up and think we're in a crisis here.
Sure.
80% of those who attended your youth group leave church and don't come back till their 30s. Why? Because you're boring, maybe because you're stale, maybe because you don't change, maybe because you don't empower them, maybe because you're not giving them an opportunity to do anything that's in their brain for the Lord. And that just, to me, has to change. If you don't change it, then you're going to lose the generation, and that's what we're talking about.
Hey, so one plug I have to give to Kicks4Kingdom, okay? All right, so I'm a middle-aged man. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, right? So in the 70s, you had Adidas and you had Converse All-Stars. Those were your sneaker choices, right?
Okay.
In the 80s, Reebok came out. Everybody had to have Reeboks. And then towards the end of the 80s, you had the Jordans, but they were really more in the 90s, okay? So I grew up in an era where shoes were just a staple. You didn't wear them because you were trying to be cool or they were that comfortable, right? Flip-flops came out. That was pretty cool. But I got to tell you, man, these shoes are comfortable.
They are.
These Air Force Ones, would I ever buy them on my own? No, because I don't value sneakers as much as this generation. But I got to tell you,
they're comfortable.
They're pretty cool. They're comfortable.
I got to look at them.
And for the kids these days, they're really dope.
Yeah.
How do you there's no other way to, you heard it from Dennis, and if you heard it from D-Money,
that's right.
The middle-aged man with the excellent kicks. I'm really thankful that you guys took time out of your schedule to come and chat. Elizabeth, you're just adorable, and I'm just so thankful for you. Where can people find you guys on social media if you want to drop that, and we'll wrap us up. Where are you at, Elizabeth?
Lizzie Ann Babin on Instagram.
At Trey9 online.
Like literally online is in the Trey9.
Trey9 online. Unless you're on Facebook, it's Trey to the 9.
To the 9.
TOTHENINE. Yeah.
I'm pretty boring. I'm Dennis Turnipseed on Facebook and D Turnipseed 5 on Instagram.
Yeah, and you'll find both of find you guys all over the city with rocket scientists. You guys are at Redeemer Community Church. I just saw that.
Yep.
So I sat under leadership of Mitch Mayer for a while, and so you guys are really great. So
EyesOnMeInc.com. Y'all visit
Yes.
EyesOnMeInc.com.
Do it. Donate, volunteer. We need you. We'll be back for another episode. I think next one's Elizabeth and I, and we'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much.